My name is Jonathan Mile from Just Flutes, and I'd like to talk to you today about the Just Flutes Perfect Performance Guarantee. We believe that buying a musical instrument should be a unique experience, and that when you get your instrument it should be in the best possible playing condition. Now, we've had a number of teachers over the last couple of years who have commented to us that such and such a brand isn't as good as it used to be. It turned out that their students were buying from online only warehouses who do little or only basic checking to the instruments before they get sent out. We gave these teachers the same models that had been given the Just Flutes setup, and they were, forgive the pun, blown away by the difference. Our pre-sale setup is not just a check to make sure that the instrument works, it's a full optimization of the instrument so that it is playing as well and as easily as it can, giving you or your child the best possible start to your musical journey. And now let's go to the workshop where McLauchlan, our flute technician, will guide us through the setup process.
Okay then, so let's start work on this flute. First thing I'm going to check is the position of the head joint cork. This is usually right, but it's always worth checking. And the other reason it's worth checking is that there's a washer that sits on the top of that cork, which does sometimes seem to work loose, and you'll get a rattle in the head joint. So I'm just using the cleaning stick, which has an engraved line on it, and that line, once it's up against the cork assembly, should be bang in the middle. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is to check that all the pivot screws and point screws are absolutely tight on the instrument. Very often they seem to either be left loose by the manufacturer or have worked loose. So we check that everything is good and tight. It's quite important to check the axle going through the roller, the C key roller, so I can check that. Go onto the body of the flute now and make sure that they are absolutely tight. Next thing to do then is check the springing, to check that that is at a sensible level so that the flute feels very nice when you're playing it. Different instruments have different weights of keys as well, so if you've got an instrument which has heavier keys, you would need to set the springing just that little bit more heavily to feel comfortable to play on. This key has a little bit of stickiness on the surface of the pad there, so we need to remove that. That will dissolve the little bit of stickiness that's on the surface of the pad. Now we'll do the two trill keys. I'm now going to check the joints are not too tight. Certainly we would always find that more damage is done on the flute when it's put together and taken apart than almost in any other way, and one of the culprits for that is that the joints can be very tight, and the tendency is, particularly for inexperienced players, is them to grip the instrument around the key work, and inevitably that is going to throw the regulation. So we tend to set the joints fairly lightly, and that's actually fractionally loose now, so I'm just going to need to tighten that a little bit, but it was almost perfect. And there we go, that's a really nice fitting, easy joint, so as long as it's kept clean. After we've done the springs and checked all the screws, we would then check the adjustment between the keys, so that it's very important that when you've got one key taking down another key further up the flute, that they go down absolutely together. If it's regulated correctly and there's double action, then that needs to be removed. Just checking whether there's any movement in this joint here, where there's clutches, where the left and right hand join together, because that always feels strange under the fingers, but that all seems good. This flute has a split E on it, so we need to check that the split E is functioning properly. So when you're putting down the E key, this key should be closing down. So let's pop it back together. And give it a blow. So we've now blown the flute. Everything seems fine, and the last thing to do really is just to polish the flute and pop it back in its case. And that's the Just Flutes pre-sale check process.